education has been a part of education dating back to the early settlers of our nation. The timeline for a push towards character education has always come to a halt due to unfortunate incidents such as conflicts within our nation, conflicts with other nations, and the economy spiraling downward. Now more than ever, students are being exposed to media and electronics where mischievous actions on a cellular device or computer can lead to reprimands and even lawsuits. Juvenile imprisonment cases, referrals, dropouts, attendance, drug use, and peer pressure have been some factors contributing to a lack of developing good character within, which in turn leads to people making inappropriate choices. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. once said, "Intelligence plus character, that is the goal of true education." Morrison supported the idea of discipline declining in schools if character education is implemented. The research in Morrison's dissertation found 4 out of every 10 teachers spending more time disciplining students in the classroom as opposed to teaching. Behaviors such as disrespect, belligerence, profanity seem to be some of the contributing factors for most referrals in the office. The perceptions in the study showed character education led to a decrease in student discipline referrals to the office. This qualitative study focuses strictly on perceptions and experiences of veteran educators who have witnessed character education during their career. Their responses towards the interview questions focus on the development on emerging themes under phenomenological research. This allowed the research to code phrases after transcribing the audio recorded interview until the 4 themes emerged. Conclusions were drawn after the data were compiled and recommendations were made for further research. Methods and procedures. Upon receiving approval from Dr. Brown on the Texas A&M University Institutional Review Board and interview questions, I was able to ask 8 participants through email for an interview pertaining to character education. Once I received a reply from the first 5 participants, I called to set up an appointment for a convenient time to conduct an interview. Interviews were conducted at 2 different sites. The first site was at the elementary school in Quinlan, and the other one was at Rockwell Administration Building. Before the interviews began, each participant was given an explanation as to the nature of the research being conducted, and then signed a consent form for agreement. Each interview was tape recorded and then transcribed for coding purposes. Due to time constraints and busy schedules, the participants were only interviewed once for a period of 1 to 1.5 hours. The sample for this research were 4 female colleagues and 1 male head principal. Participants were predominantly white, with 1 Hispanic, 80% being white, 20% being Hispanic. The average age was 44 years. Every participant in the study held a principal certification, and 4 out of the 5 held a superintendent certification. The inclusion criteria for participants were: they must be educators for 10 or more years, they had to hold principal certifications, they had to have a previous background in character education, and they must speak English. The research questions that were asked were: how would you define character education? What would character education in your school mean to you? What % of students do you think possess a majority of characteristics described in a character program? Why do you think that is? What do you think are important traits students must possess in order to carry themselves with good character? How would you feel about implementing a character education program in your school or school district? Do you think a character program like this could potentially lead to a better school culture? Explain. How would character education help to improve attendance, grades, discipline, referrals, graduation rate, and respect among students and faculty? Please answer for each item. How could a character program in the school help to be a preventative for bullying and threats and possible suicide attempts? How could character education help in the decision-making process of students? What obstacles have you seen students endure, which impacts their character and decision making? What approach should the school district take in order to promote character education? What needs to be in a character education program in order to be effective? When do you think character starts developing in a child? In your opinion, what are the 5 most important character traits essential for students to have in and out of school? Explain the difficulties that a school or school district would have trying to implement a new character education program. Would there be opposition from faculty? What would be the selling point to the teachers before implementing the program? What impressions do you get from the parents in regards to having good character? Do you think they are demonstrating traits of a role model with good character for their child? Why or why not? Tell me your viewpoint about the perception students have of teachers in the school or school district based on conversations heard, letters seen, or social media you have observed. How critical is it for teachers to conduct themselves with the traits described in the character education? Why does this make a difference? How would you interview an applicant trying to acquire a job at your school that would let you know about their character? What are examples of questions that you would ask? The next would be going into the results. The process used to analyze the results was descriptive and analytical coding with notes, which helped to divide the transcriptions into categories for deeper meanings. Creswell described the use of Colazzi's phenomenological method, which was used for the analysis of transcribing the participants' responses in its qualitative study. Every transcription from the interview process was read repeatedly for understanding. This allowed the researcher to begin observing some responses which were similar to other participants' responses. From this came emerging themes that focused on lived experiences from the participants during their educational career. The 20 questions helped to focus around the 4 emerging themes after an in-depth description on the topic of character education. Once the categories and subcategories were established, the researcher began to perform actual and selective coding. Validity for this study included rigorous standards such as searching for literature review on the topic, following the procedures of phenomenology, bracketing any prior viewpoints, recording notes helping to develop emerging themes, and fulfillment of the 5 participants required for the study. This study was also validated through the use of tape recording, observations during the interview, and participants having the freedom from interruption during the interview. Emerging themes, along with field notes, were sent to the Texas A&M E-College discussion board for peers to review and provide feedback as the themes developed. Peers were able to recognize critical and constructive ideas and strategies for improvements on how to analyze data to make sure the right themes emerged. This helped for study to be narrowed down to 4 emerging themes as opposed to 5. One of the themes was actually a subcategory of another. The emerging themes under this study were: stakeholders need to consistently model character traits every day. The second emerging theme was students need to start observing and performing the character traits from an early age in order to make good choices. Number 3 was most students do not possess all character traits but respect their teachers if respect is present. And the 4th one is obstacles incurred by students in their everyday life can contribute towards choices going against their character. In conclusion of this character education analysis, it served as a tool for emerging themes to focus on specific areas of character education programs. The tool could be used by campus or district evaluators on their character education program to determine how to capitalize on program needs. It could help other communities and school districts to grow and strengthen their individual program based on these considerations. The emerging themes could potentially lead to strategies for administrative staff to implement on campus for an improved culture, recognition from teachers to be consistent on character traits, and awareness programs for students to make the right choices in the community. Depending on the effectiveness of the character education program, data would be presented to central office staff and school board members for progressive purposes, along with the possibility of providing more funding. It could also serve as a presentation for local region centers, state conferences, and national conferences for implementations to other schools. The literature review cited for this poster was Creswell, Fields, Morrison, and Pearls. Acknowledgements. I would like to thank all the participants that agreed to participate in this phenomenological study. I would also like to acknowledge the Rockwall Administration Building and the elementary school in Quinlan for the hospitality and for allowing the conference space to conduct interviews. For more information, please contact me at juan.solis@quinlanisd.net. Thank you for your time.